Virgo, good morning, hello, whenever you see this. I apologize, I am 2 days late on getting this out for the week of October 20th through the 26th. I am, however, still going to, I started this week to do the weekly readings a little bit different. I was pulling 3 cards, now I'm going to pull a card for every day, plus an additional card to wrap everything up, and hopefully I stay on track with that, so... I'm also late with Leo and Capricorn. So for some reason, you could possibly glean something from those readings, and hopefully they're up and functional and ready for you. I know I had an issue with Leo, and Leo isn't 2 parts, okay? So you could be dealing with something or someone that ends up, starting off one way and then getting redirected or seeing it as something else and having a fuller picture the second time around. But here we go. This is going to be for Sunday. Not even going to try and keep the dates right anymore because that did not work out for Leo. But this was the energy for Sunday. I'm still going to also draw Monday too, because there should be a full picture at the end of all the cards are drawn, and some of this information may help you with the other energy throughout the week. You could end up feeling burnt out or exhausted, or you may have been on Sunday, and it's the end of the week, it's the official day of rest, right? So you may have been dealing with all these problems, and now because you don't have anything to deal with right now, or you can't make any moves, it's likely that you just chilled out and sat in worry possibly for the entire day. A lot to do, not a lot that you can do though. For Monday, we had the King of Swords. Understanding something may not need your opinion, maybe understanding something that could be used against you in a court of law is what I just heard. Manipulation is not something that you want to really play into, but you may have found yourself doing that at some point, or being manipulated. You could have even acted one way even though you know better, and this could have been, and flip it where it needs to go, but this could have been saying something that you may have initially meant one way, but after you thought about it for a minute, could see where it was offensive. But being like, well, you know what, we're just going to sit on that and see how that goes. Write that out and see if it comes back to bite you, but this may have also been doing something and without really thinking about it, but even though you know that there was a point where you could have turned back and not followed through with this, you decided to, and you ignored it. You ignored the intuition that this is going to have a consequence that you're not going to want to deal with, but you're deciding that ignoring something is emotional control, and it is not. And you may end up finding out the consequences of that later this week, maybe in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So, I don't know, we'll see. Wednesday, you have the Devil. One of my recently favorite cards. The Devil is either a Capricorn person in your energy, someone that you're dealing with, or it could be that you have been miscategorizing things. You could not be understanding things for as they are, but bits and pieces and misconstruing information to where you can either demonize it or decide that it is a certain way that you can dismiss it, and so that it doesn't matter to you. But in reality, if you step back and take a look at yourself, you'll be able to see that your perception may not be as true as you want it to be. By intentionally seeing things as they're not, but as you may not even benefit from this perception. You could just be deciding something is one way so you don't have to deal with it, or so that you only have to you get to demonize something whenever it's not to be demonized. It's not anything that's to your detriment. It's not hurting you in any way, but you still want to have a bad opinion about it, so you just stay with that and refuse to see any other information. I'm also getting as above, so below with this card, and as within, so without. So the opinion that you have of somebody or something on the outside of you could actually be a self-criticization that you're failing to acknowledge. And possibly a problem that you're failing to fix. In doing that, you're also restricting yourself from the probability or the possibility of potential that you could have if you would address this problem and focus on fixing it. For Wednesday, you could end up dealing with or being this person, the Emperor in reverse. And this is someone who comes off as a tyrant, domineering, who wants things their way and no other way because they're bothered by any change that they don't have control of. This could be a trauma response to something that happened to them previously. However, it is not the world's job to keep paying for something that happened to them, especially if they were not the actors in that event. And ensure that you're not also over controlling the things or people around you and then writing them off as soon as they're not meeting your demands. The Emperor rules an empire, and the empire is supposed to function as its own individual machine, kind of. And the Emperor's job was to line things up and put those resources into place and be kind of the spokesperson for the empire to a way to connect everything. Otherwise, they would be disconnected and they wouldn't be as homogenous of a functioning unit. So this person was at one point trying to connect things together, connect people with differences together to be able to utilize each other's resources and work towards a common goal, a common function as a whole entity. But in the reverse, these domineering tactics are not to anybody's benefit. It's not towards the function of a society, of a group, of a family, of a governing body. What it is holding things back by refusing to change opinion, refusing to assess a situation. So if you have found that you've been putting limitations on something else, or someone else, or somebody has been doing this to you, So maybe a sign that you need to change that. And you have 2 4 cards. And you have 2 4 cards, so you maybe have been seeing the number 44 or the number 4. And if you have, then that is definitely a signal to you to focus on building foundations instead of destroying them. Because the number 4 is the number of foundations and stability. And also look up the angel number 444, etc., to see if you can glean anything else from that. It may end up helping you find where it is that you need to focus and not destroy the things that you've built. And for Thursday, we have the Fool in reverse, so you may be holding back just because either of a fear of change, of a fear of success, that it may possibly lead to recklessness. However, no choice is also a choice. If you have 2 paths before you and you choose not to take either, just sit in the middle and maybe not even look at the options that you have in front of you, that is also a choice. That is a choice to refuse that movement is an option, that you have choices and you have options. You could do something about a problem, but you're choosing not to. And since right now we have 440, you could also be just, every time you attempt to make progress, coming up in your head with kind of like a 404 error. Like not found. Information not found. This could also be a disassociation process that you're going through. And if you assess the reasons why it is that you keep checking out or keep intentionally ignoring things, that you tell yourself that you're not going to ignore anymore, that you're going to take care of that, and then you just stay in that mind of, oh, well, I will take care of that, but not right now. Eventually, a lack of movement, a lack of building on this foundation is going to cause it to crumble. And just because you feel like you can stand firm on it now, if you don't do anything with it, if you don't utilize it for its function, then over time it will find itself in disrepair and no one will be able to use it. If you ignore anything for long enough, it will, if you fail to maintain anything for a long period of time, of course it's going to crumble and it's going to cease to exist, it's going to cease to be useful, and its intended function will not be possible anymore. So and this is for Friday, the Seven of Swords, our buddy, the Seven of Swords. And I know people like to say that he's going behind enemy lines, and taking away the weapons that they would use against him. However, this is a sword card, and the swords represent the mind, right? So these are ideas that he is leaving behind. To me, this is a guy that's actually, maybe he was forced into army service, right? Okay, we'll just say that he was forced into this position of going to the battlefield and fighting somebody else's battles. And now that he's there, he's been run through the basic ideas of what it is that they're there for and how to utilize these tools. However, whenever he tries to remove himself from that situation, whenever he tries to take himself away from, and if you know anything about the Shriners in the United States, they They're the typically older guys who ride around on these tiny little motorcycles, and they wear fezzes, and it's kind of like a Masonic Union or Masonic Lodge or something like that. They're not Masons, but they're something else, and I can never remember what they are. You or someone you know may be associated with the Shriners, which is why this is coming up too. But the obviously, if he's been put in this position to where they've taught him some ideas and they have a good foundation because they're in the ground. Those ideas are in the foundation. They're solid. These other tools, these other ideas, these other lessons, he has failed to learn them. And if he has been taught them, but he has failed to use them correctly, because if he was using them correctly, he would be holding these swords in a sheath, and he wouldn't be holding them by the blade. He's allowing these half-baked, half-learned, ghost of an idea to harm him as he's trying to run away from the lessons that this is trying to teach him. He's also segregating himself away from other people who could be of use to him if he would only choose to perceive them the way that they could be useful. And then, of course, you have the basic meaning of the card, the betrayal, the deception, getting away with something, but, if he's playing chess, he's not playing it the right way. He's not using the pieces as they are intended, and whenever you're trying to play checkers with chess pieces, you have to really narrow your vision and only understand the pieces as as black and white and as their position on the board. And that is not enough information to determine the truth of a situation. So, for Saturday, the final card before we wrap it up, you have a chance to align yourself with an opportunity or a position that could give you something. However, you're either looking at it wrong, or seeing it only for what somebody else is telling you that it is. Which, if you, I'm going to use the Army service as a perfect example, all right? Army service is like, well, you get all these benefits, you get training, you get skills, you go in knowing nothing, maybe being a directionless kid. If you want to, you can go career after a certain amount of time. You can, they lay it out to where you have all this opportunity, you have all this ability, but whenever you get in there, it's like, this is opportunity, huh? And it's for some people, it's not for everybody, but if you constantly need to be told which choice is right, and you refuse to acknowledge that you can build a system of your own personal values, your own personal wants and desires, and your own goals, you'll only ever be able to pick up the things that people are giving you as options. And they're not all great. And often enough, the other people that are presenting you these options, these choices for you to make, are actually getting more out of you making those choices than you ever will. And we're pretty blinded to the queering at this point. He's just standing there in shadow, so does he know what he's made of? Does he know what he wants? Is his shadow self trying to trying to dictate how he or she views these options, and the shadow self is typically seen as something that is, a part of yourself that is restricting you, that is drawn to choices and addictions to hold you back or to lead you down a path of a more difficult lesson. And that's where the querent is in this. So it might be something to keep in mind. Even though this is in reverse, it still has to do with your alignment, the choices you have to make, and whether or not it is that you are dealing with your personal values or the values of somebody else. And in reality, the values of somebody else could just be manipulating you to their benefit and have nothing to do with the benefit of you, especially in long term. And now for the final card to wrap up the week, with a nice tidy little bow, is going to be the Star. You will be inspired to make choices. You'll be possibly bandied around for a moment and jostled until you have no choice but to find inspiration and hope in what you thought was a hopeless situation. You have a spiritual pathway that you can start down to help you start to rejuvenate and change your ideas, how your mind works, and there is hope. But you have to put faith in yourself to make those decisions for yourself. While it's good to have a mentor, somebody leading you, there's a difference between someone who's teaching you a way to view the world and someone who's just ordering you around. That's the difference between a teacher or a mentor and bully. So if you find that most of your decisions, most of your ideas, your direction comes from other people's choices or what they're allowing you to do because they've restricted your choices until you had no choice but to make the choice, choose the path, choose the thing that they wanted you to choose. That's not a choice. So Virgo, I am going to let you go for the week. Hopefully you have a good week and you come to this entire week looks like it's about you finding a personal center and maybe standing up for yourself a little bit. Tending to the things within you without clearing it with somebody else. You don't need permission to change your mind. Changing your mind does not make you a hypocrite. Changing your mind because it benefits, depending on who it is that you're talking to, is what makes you a hypocrite. It's manipulation, and it's not only manipulation of yourself, it's mindless manipulation of yourself and mindless manipulation of those around you. So don't be afraid to change your mind, especially if you have a good reason. It doesn't mean you have to justify it to everyone that you come into contact with. Not everyone needs to know your inner thoughts. Not everyone needs to be aware of everything that's going on in your mind. There is a process, and if they don't understand that everyone is constantly going through a process, constantly changing, constantly evolving, that form of stagnation is their responsibility to deal with, not yours. But you have a good week, Virgo, and you will come out the other side with a new vision, a new light that you can either work towards or use as an inspiration point. Anyway, I am doing daily, weeklies, and monthlies here. And again, I am sorry that this is late. You may want to check out Leo and Capricorn later on. And if you made it to the end of the video, thank you for watching all the way through. I do appreciate it. I am trying to get my watch time up. So congratulations on any progress that you make and any new ideas that you come up with this week, Virgo.